Welcome all, and thank you for joining Wealth Conversation with Gaitha. My name is Gaitha, and I am the founder of Rico Africa, which is a company that I set up about 5 years ago just to help everybody create wealth and global wealth. So I'm a global trade and investment expert, and I do wealth and business coaching. And the reason I decided to set up this show, Wealth Conversation with Gaitha, is because immediately that we had the pandemic of COVID, a lot of people were asking me different questions about what do I do in regards to creating wealth? How do I grow and manage my wealth during this time? Because these are times that no one has ever seen and no one ever expected. And so we are in a new normal. So because of that, I thought I should start a show where I can answer any questions that you may have and that they may be able to help you and also others who join in or see this video in the future. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it, and I can't wait for having a really lovely and interesting conversation later on today. Later on. Today, the topic that I decided that would be best for us to discuss is really having a wealth vision. How do you come up with the right strategies for you to create wealth? This really is important because this is the 6th show of the Wealth Conversation with Gaitha. And at the very beginning, we started talking about what is the wealth formula. And we started talking about how to map up your life and have a vision of your life. And that was really, really around your life. But today we'll be talking about your wealth specifically. We also talked about the different asset classes. How do you invest? We talked about how to create passive income, especially how do you make money through business. And last Wednesday, it was very interesting. We had 2 guests who talked to us about creating wealth in Africa. And I'm really passionate about creating wealth for all and Africa economic development. So today, basically after last time, a lot of people said this was a lot of information. What do we do? What are the actual steps that we need to take? And so with that, I decided to share with people something that I do with my wealthy clients, which is actually helping them have a wealth plan. And because this is an 8-step process, I will be going through that real quick, at least for the first 30 minutes. So just to share with you what are the 8 steps that you need to take. And then from there, I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have in regards to creating wealth. So thank you for joining us, those who are with me on Zoom and those who are on Facebook Live. And what I would recommend, if you hear anything, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me, just go ahead and put them on the chat box if you're on Zoom, and I will be sure to answer that. Also, if you are on Facebook, I see a few people who are joining in on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, then I would just go ahead and say, go ahead and type in a comment. You can actually write your name and say where you, because we have global clients. So it would be good to know where are you in the world. So just put your name, put your country where you're from. And if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. And I will be sure to answer those questions. So again, thank you for joining Wealth Conversation with Gaitha. So I always tell people when you're talking about having a wealth vision, the first thing you need to ask yourself is what kind of wealth do you want, right? So different people have different financial goals. A lot of people just say, what I want is a house, a car, a few pieces of plots, here and there, and they're okay with that. But there are some people who want more. So the only way you can actually achieve whatever financial goals or what wealth vision that you have is by knowing what exactly do I want for me? What do I want for my family? And I've been encouraging a lot of people to actually start thinking about when I'm creating wealth, it's not just for me, it's about 4 generations from now. How can I create wealth that I will be in a position where I'm financially free, be in a position whereby even in my old age, I will not have to worry about money because I am financially free. I can have the lifestyle that I want. And even after I pass away, I'll still be able to leave wealth for my children and my children's children. So the first question I have for you is, what's the wealth vision that you have? The second thing I want to talk about, and I'll be going in about the 8 steps, really telling people we need to change our mindsets about wealth. In the first episode, we were talking about creating wealth and what is the wealth formula. And the first thing I have noticed a lot of people are not able to create wealth and generations to come is because it was never taught to them. Plus, we have a mentality of lack most of the time, or worried because your parents told you, you know what, money is hard to come by. Especially right now, we know it is not easy. It is not easy for majority of us, right? Whether you're worried about your job, you're worried about your business, you're worried about what will happen tomorrow. But the question is, and I'm telling people, yes, right now things might not be good, but the future is going to be bright. So the question is, right now, while we are waiting to understand what happens next, what plan are you putting in place? Because I believe the decisions that you make right now will affect your future. So I'm always telling everybody, this is a time for you to listen, you need to learn, and you need to level up, because it's very important that you put the right strategies, in this case, wealth strategies, in place so that you can benefit in the future. So that is the first thing I want to say about that. And then the other thing I want to actually emphasize here is that you need to create money so that you can be able to help your family and the community. I keep telling people money is a good thing because it's an enabler for you to do great, great things. A lot of people are suffering, but if you don't have money to give them, how can you support them? So it's very, very, very important that you do that. And the other thing is, I always tell people, you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you don't have, you cannot do great things. So that is the first things that you need to do. And I'm seeing right here, Nyambura says having a vision board is very important. I totally agree. Yes. And you know, when you're doing a vision board, when I tell people to have a vision board, it's supposed to look at your life, your full life, you know, what is it that you want to accomplish? But actually, a subset of that vision board is really your wealth board, right? Your wealth vision board. So you're asking yourself, how much money do I want to make every month? For me to live the lifestyle that I want, how much money is that? Is it 100,000? Is it 1,000,000 shillings? Is it 10,000? You have to come up with that number to know this is what I want. If it's a house, do you want a 3-bedroom house? Do you want a mansion? Or are you okay with a bed sitter? You have to be very deliberate. What do you want? So you have to have a vision around that. You actually ask yourself, how much money do I want in my bank account? How much money do I want in my investment account? How many properties do I want? You have to be very, very clear. And when I'm going through the step process, I'll show you what are the steps you need to look at so that you actually create a wealth vision for yourself and a wealth plan in that space. And this is really important because I think this is a time, especially if you're in a family, even if you haven't started, you don't have a family yet of your own, but you know, all of us are part of families. This is the time I'm telling people we need to get to a place, especially as Africans. So for my global clients, if you're not in Africa, that's okay, but this is specifically for Africans. This is the time we stop the poverty cycle, because the poverty cycle is what stops us from doing great things, and we keep pushing that poverty cycle to the next and next generation. This is the time when we're going to start creating that wealth cycle so that your children are better than you. And the only way they can be better than you is if they learn from you, because our children learn from us. They see what it is that you're doing. So if you're investing, guess what? They will invest. If they see you working hard, guess what they will do? They will work very hard. So that's really a background about the wealth vision. And with that, I want to go ahead and just share my screen real quick, because we'll be talking about the wealth book. As I mentioned earlier, the wealth book is something that I came up with, especially after COVID, because these were the 8 steps we were doing for my wealthy clients and helping them in regards to coming up with a wealth plan. Because when we do wealth management under Regal Africa, we do wealth planning, we do wealth structuring, and we do wealth advisory. So we work hand in hand with our clients in regards to their wealth journey. But then we realized, you know what? This is a time where everybody needs this information. Everybody needs to come up with a plan. So what we did is we ended up coming with a wealth book, e-workbook, which I'll be sharing that with you in just a moment, that really helps you create a wealth plan. So I will just go ahead and just share my screen so that you can actually see exactly what it is that I am talking about, because this is what's going to help you in this season. All right. So let me start sharing that. Okay, so we're sharing the screen. I hope you can all see my screen right now. And on the screen, you should start seeing Let's Help You on Your Wealth Journey, the 8-step workbook for creating wealth. All right, so this is, I keep saying creating wealth is a journey. So it's not something that you start right now and it ends. It is a journey. It's continuously a journey. So you're either accumulating wealth, it's either you're managing wealth, or you are actually transferring your wealth. So when we talk about the wealth journey, and especially about the 8-step process, I'll go ahead and just ensure that that's going down. Let's see here. All right. So this is the wealth book. And this is the 8-step process that we're talking about. So whenever you are actually creating a wealth vision and a wealth plan, it is very key for you to achieve your financial goals. Like I said, you cannot be financially free. You cannot achieve your financial goals unless you know exactly where you're going. So this is really a roadmap on your wealth journey. So there are 8 key things that you need to be doing. The first thing, and I've mentioned this before for anyone who's been coming for any of my shows or any trainings that we've done, you need to understand your financial net worth. That is the first step, because you have to understand where are you before you can understand where you want to go. So that's the first step that you need to do. And once you understand what your assets are and what your liabilities are, and because assets are what you own, you now have to take the action steps to start increasing your assets. You need to start growing your assets, whatever that is. Is it real estate? Is it shares? Is it business? There are very many different asset classes. So you need to be increasing your assets. At the same time, you need to be decreasing your liability. So that is the first step that you need to take. The second step is really cash management, which is about your income and expenses. Whether you're in business, whether you have a salary, you actually have to get to a place where you make sure that your expenses are less than your income. If you're spending more than you're making, that is a problem, and you'll never be financially free. The third step is really debt management. So it's about taking the steps to reduce your debt. A lot of people have started taking debt, especially right now in COVID. It is the wrong time, because you only want to get good debt. You only want to get debt to buy an asset, but not get debt for consumption. So really, it's important to manage that. You also need to do asset protection, which is really insurance. And I'm going this real fast because I just really want to show you what the wealth book does and why you need to actually acquire it or sit down with an advisor, because you will need to sit down with your family, whether you're married or if you're single by yourself, and actually take these steps one by one. And that is how you will actually achieve your wealth vision. Tax planning is very important. I keep telling people that you are giving money away. For example, people don't know the tax benefits of actually putting money into a pension plan. People don't know the benefits about having life insurance and how you can deduct it when you're doing your taxes. And all taxes, especially if you're in Kenya, are due by June 30th. If you're in the States, it's April 15th, it's already passed. So wherever you're in the world, you need to know when you're doing your taxes, and you need to know how to actually take the incentives that government gives you so that you reduce your taxable income. And then most important is retirement planning. Retirement planning is key, because you're not going to stay young forever. We're all going to get old. So the question is, are you going to be ready for retirement? And what do you need to be doing to get ready for retirement? And this is when you need to start thinking about passive income. How can I invest so whatever money I make, I don't have to work on it during retirement? I'll actually just be able to benefiting from the investments that I make. And then we have talked about investment planning. So I'm an investment expert. So we really talk to our clients about different asset classes, which depends on different things. We look at how much money you're making. We look at what your time horizon is. We look at what your risk tolerance is. So that is a way to actually create your investment portfolio. And we always say you have to diversify your portfolio. And the last thing when you're actually creating a wealth vision is estate planning. I always tell people, even, and it's not easy for all of us, I know, especially if you're African, you know, you don't want to, you think you're going to live forever. But I always say someone smart has to be able to say, you know what, I've worked very hard. What do I want to happen to my assets, to whatever I've accumulated? What do I want to do? So estate planning is very key. So you want to speak to a wealth professional, get involved lawyers and different tax advisors to help you with your estate plan. And once you do those 8 steps, then you can enjoy the lifestyle that you want, which I know is everything everybody is wanting to do. But before you can do that, you have to, or the process of getting there is by you creating wealth. And I know a lot of us are in that creating wealth journey. So what the wealth book does is, you know, immediately you get it, you're able to complete your information. I won't really go into that. I just wanted to show you an example here. So what happens is you start putting down your assets. What are your assets? What is the value? And any notes. You will be surprised how many times I sit with people and they bought land years ago, or they bought shares in the stock market, or they have some kind of assets or own a business and they forgot about it, right? That's why we see a lot of people, a lot of assets in the billions in unclaimed assets. The reason is people forget. So what you want to do is list down your asset and understand the value, because whatever your house is worth 10 years ago is probably not what it's worth today. So you always have to be, when you're looking at your wealth plan, you need to actually understand what asset do I have? What's the value today? So you can actually know what your total assets are worth. And then you look at the same thing about liabilities, and what liabilities do is then you list down your liabilities. I have a loan with this bank. I have a loan with this microfinance. I owe this money to a Shylock or whatever it is, and you put the value there. And then that will help you when you're doing debt management to reduce it down. So it's very critical to do that. And then the wealth book talks about cash flow management, which is really about budgeting and things of that nature. The key here, and sorry, I'm going a bit too fast, is really this part what we call the wealth questionnaire, where you understand your whole financial picture. Where are you currently? And once you do all that, the last thing that we do is really say, what is your 1-year wealth goal? What is your 5-year wealth goal? And what is your 10-year wealth goal? The reason this is very important is, like I said, 1 year from now, what do you want to own? 10 years from now, what do you want to own? Because what you want in 10 years, you need to start working towards it today, right? Because if you don't start working towards today, guess what? 10 years from now, you'll be in the same position that you are today, and you will be talking about, oh, I wish I did it when I was younger. I wish I did it before I had children. I wish I did it before I had all this responsibility. So what you want to do is always make sure that you actually have plans in place. And like I said, I always tell my clients, you want to start with 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and then that's how we work in regards to understanding where you are today, to make sure that, look, if you want to own a hotel in Lamu, how much does it cost? And then you start working towards that. I want to buy land in Nyanyuki. How much does it cost? And then you start making plans toward that. Something simple, you can say, okay, maybe I want to own an apartment in Kilimani, which is worth 20 million. And you know, maybe you want to take a mortgage. And if you're going to take a mortgage, maybe you want to put 20% down, right? So then now, you know, 20% of 20 million, you know, you need what? About 4 million down payment so that you can get a mortgage of 16 million. Now, if you don't have that 4 million now, what you need to be saying is, I need that 4 million within a year or 2 years. And then now you break it down monthly and you say 4 million in 12 months, how much should I be putting aside every month, right? And then you need to then know, okay, this money that I'm putting aside every month, how do I put it in something that is going to earn interest so that I'm actually growing my money? Because 4 million today is not worth 4 million a year or 2 years down the line because of inflation. So it's very important and very critical that when you're creating wealth and you're having your wealth vision, you're looking at the numbers. It's not really, I see a lot of people have very many plans in their head, but I always tell people you need to take a pen and paper, or in this time, because we're becoming digital, you can actually get like an ebook like I'm talking about, where you actually do it online, right? And then you print it out. And it's very clear, where am I today and where do I want to go? Because if you do not have a plan, then guess what? You're planning to fail. So so that's really what I wanted to share with you about the wealth book, and why it is important to have a wealth plan. Because as I mentioned earlier, when you're looking at the wealth formula, the first thing is to have a wealthy mindset. But once you have the wealthy mindset, then you need to come up with a plan. Because once you have the plan, then now you can take action towards that plan. I want to buy this house worth 50 million. I want to buy this land worth 5 million. I want to start this business worth 10, like whatever your plans are, you have to write it down. And then you need to have a timeline so that you know, this is the money I will need, this is the timelines that I have, and then you break it down into manageable things, right? So if you think you will need 1 million shillings in 1 year, then now you break it down and say, how do I get 100,000 every month? But if you tell yourself that if I need 1 million in 1 year, then it looks like it's a lot of money, right? But if you break it down to say, oh, okay, I need 100,000 a month, then it's manageable. So when you're looking at creating wealth, when you're looking at your wealth vision, you need to have the bigger goal, but then now you need to break it down. And now that becomes what we call tactical strategies. You have an overall strategy of what I want to do, right? Which you've already written down. And then now you have to have tactics. Now those tactics are what you now go to the professionals and say, okay, how much money do I put in the stock market? How much money do I put with this fund manager? How much money do I put in this real estate property? How much money do I put in this business? How much do I put in agribusiness? Basically, once you have an overall view of what you need to do, then now you can break it down into what needs to be done. And so that is the importance of having a wealth plan, and actually that works along with your wealth vision. And yeah, and so that is something that I really wanted to share, just a little bit of background before I can now start answering questions from all of you. Let's just see here. So I really put down something here, which I always tell everybody: first, it's the vision, then the plan, and then you take action. You can talk all you want, you can have a vision board, which is very important, but if you don't work towards that vision, unfortunately, that plan will not be actualized. So what I'm teaching you here today is start with the vision, but the action plan of execution is what's really going to be critical. So go ahead and do that. So with that, I see the couple people here on Zoom who have joined me, and welcome to Wealth Conversations with Gaitha. Why don't you go ahead and just type in your question if you have it on the chat, or if you want to actually ask the question, then I would encourage you to go ahead and just raise your hand, and then I'll unmute you, and then you can go ahead and do that. Also, if you're on Facebook, I would go ahead and just say, go ahead and put your comment if you have any questions about creating wealth, and I can be able to answer. I do see here Kate. Kate is actually in the States. So Kate, there are many things going on. I know in the US, a lot of people wondering what next. So if you have any questions specifically about the US, ask me. I was there for 15 years. I understand the US, and in the work that we do, we look at global wealth. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and write a comment, and I will be glad to answer that. All right. All right, so go ahead and type in the questions. If no one is doing that. What I can do usually before every wealth conversation, I usually ask different people to send in questions. So I'll go ahead and just answer some of those questions. So then you can maybe whatever question you had, I can answer it, or you can then take the time to ask me that question. All right, so in regards to some of the questions that I got earlier on today, let me see here. Okay, just give me a moment. It looks like it's taking a while to do that. So while those questions are coming up, what I would say is, if you're interested in getting the wealth book, e-workbook, so that you can start working on your wealth plan or your family wealth plan, just go ahead and email us at Regal Africa, which is info@regalafrica.co.ke, and we will be able to then send you the form that you can complete, or you can email us at wealth@regalafrica.co.ke, and we will be able to answer that question. All right, so I'm still waiting for the questions to be asked. All right, so I do see here Mike is asking, what is the risk of investing in stocks in the current environment? Okay, what is the risk of investing in stocks in the current environment? The risk in the stock market is always there. It's always there, so it is risky. And the reason it's risky is because there are very many different variables that affect the value of a company, right? So anyone who's a financial professional always understands that the value of the company increases based on the value that people perceive it to be. So if a company continues to grow, then guess what? The value of the company grows. And as the value of the company grows, then the price of the share increases, right? So that's fundamentally how you look at the share price. But then there are also other variables that happen where people decide it is time that they get out of the market because maybe they just want to cash out. So in the case of the current environment, I've been telling people, if you want to invest in the stock market, there are two strategies that you want to look at. One, if you're looking at a long-term strategy, so I'm talking about more than 5 years in the stock market, this is a good time to buy, because no matter what happens, the stock market, whether it's you're in Kenya in the Nairobi Securities Exchange, or if you're in London, or if you're investing through the New York Stock Exchange, guess what? The historically, and the trends that you see is the stock market always outperforms all other asset classes. So it is advisable if you're looking to invest in the long term. The other time maybe you can get a good deal is actually if you're trading. So you're looking at very short-term trading. I do not recommend that. I recommend people to actually invest as opposed to trading and watching the markets, because there's some professionals who are very good at watching the market. But if you're not a professional, I wouldn't advise that, because there are things whereby the price goes up 10%, goes down 20, like it's so very volatile. So what I would say, Mike, it depends on your wealth strategy. If you're looking at the long term, then I would say, yes, look at those really good, those companies that you think are going to be good in the long run, and those are the ones that you invest in. But if you're thinking about trading, then you want to speak to a trader or financial advisor who can then watch the market for you, and then maybe you can win. But like I said, I always say no risk, no return, but only invest in the stock market in things that you believe are going to, what do I say, for money that you're willing to lose, then you can invest in the stock market. But if you're not willing to lose that money, then I would say put it in a different asset class that has less risky. And like I say, when you're investing, it's based on your risk tolerance. So Mike, I would really need to understand what your risk tolerance is. But if you're thinking long term, and my goal is look at the best shares and invest in that. The other question that I see here, okay, you've continued asking, will COVID impact on the value of investments such as houses, apartment, and property leading to a reduction in your wealth? Is it also a good time to buy property, especially at the tail end of the crisis? All right, so yes, COVID is affecting everything because it's affecting the economy specifically. And one of the things that, and you were asking specifically about houses, apartment properties, I've been looking at the trends both, in Africa, whether it's in, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, or in London, or, in the US. Again, real estate is about location, 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 right? So there are certain places whereby property values will continue going up, but I'll speak specifically about Kenya and what COVID is doing. So if you look at the case of Kenya, a lot of the property was already overpriced, right? So then now you have an economy that has distressed the purchasing power of people. People are losing their jobs. People are not making so much money in their business. So guess what? They don't have the ability to buy this property. And this property, again, was overpriced. So is this a good time to buy? Question mark. It depends on the location. It also depends on, are you able to afford that? Because also, what we have seen and the trends that we're seeing in, for example, in Kenya, we are seeing prices of houses, apartment, land going down. If I don't know where you live, but if you go like Kilimani, Kilelesha, all these different places, you're actually seeing people actually put in boards and saying, we'll give you 30%, 10%, 20% discounts. Why? Because these property developers want to pay off their loans. No one is buying. So guess what? They're willing to give you a discount on that. So what I'm telling people that, you know what? If you have the money and you see that that particular property is a good deal, then buy. Don't buy market value, look for deals. So there are very many distressed properties that are gonna become in the market. And those are the ones that you want to buy, because then, if you're already buying it at 30%, the value, the market value, guess what? You're already doing good as an investor. So that's what I would say. Look out for deals, and that's what you buy, but not necessarily buy property that is at the market value, because the prices will either stabilize or they will go down. So then now you'll find yourself negative equity and you've just bought the property. So that's my feeling. But if you look at also other places, even in the States, even South Africa, you're seeing the same trends, because people are not making money. They're defaulting on their mortgages. There's going to be a lot of foreclosures happening. If that happens, then again, the value of the houses will go down. So Mike, what I would say, depending on where you are, speak to a realtor or a wealth advisor. They will look at, they'll analyze your current market and advise you accordingly. So I hope I answered that, and I wish you well investing in real estate. And if you ever need any help, also you can reach us out at info@regalafrica.co.ke. We do have, support our clients in regards to real estate advisory, but we also work with different agents who we can refer you in case you want to actually buy or sell your property. All right, so another question that you have, Mike, it looks like Mike had a lots of questions. The other question was, what would you advise people with businesses in sectors that are facing huge crises, such as hospitality? Does it make sense to cut your losses and close down if you're increasingly going into debt and running the point of no return? COVID is going to turn into waste investment that people have made over the years into paupers. Okay. Mike, what you're saying is actually true, the last part, whereby COVID has eroded a lot of investment gains that were done by people. And this is the same thing that happened in the crisis, the financial crisis in the US back in 2008. I mean, I was working for Bank of America and I just saw people's investments just deplete. And but the thing about investments, and that's why I talked about having a wealth vision, it's not about short term, because the market always recovers, right? The market always recovers. So in this case, you haven't wasted by investing, because if you hadn't invested, guess what? You'd have been losing money, because I always tell people that that 10 million that you have would not be 10 million 10 years from now. So investing is not wasting. Basically, it's hedging your risk. And that's why you have to be in different asset classes. But in the case of businesses, especially people who are in hospitality, again, I hope that people in business were doing the right thing, because that is the advice we give business people. You always have to have a cushion. You cannot spend everything that you make. So as a business person, or you're in a salary, you always have to have a cushion of at least 3 to 6 months. That's what we were encouraging people, 3 to 6 months. But it's reached a point where actually saying, you know what, maybe people after COVID will need to start putting up to 12 months, because we don't know when this crisis will end. So for someone who is in hospitality and can be able to wait it out the next 3, 6, 12 months, then wait it out. But then there's some people who are in problems. You can't pay your rent. You cannot pay your employees. Sometimes, and I believe that because I'm in business, there's sometimes if you see no way out, it's good to just cut your losses, because you also don't want to be continuing carrying debt that you know you'll never recover. So the question is, now this is where you need also to have good networks or have wealth advisors. You need to be asking yourself, okay, who in my network, because people have a lot of money and they want to be in hospitality. I know that because hospitality is one of the industries we look at. Maybe this is the time you need to be selling your hotel or your restaurant, right? So then you start having to ask yourself, as a business person, what was my exit strategy? Did I want to sell this property? Did I want my children to inherit it? Or is it because now I have no way out, then I have to sell, right? So then you work the numbers. I'm talking about working the numbers and then say, is it better for me to just close and officially close and never go back to that industry? Or is it the time where I say, can I sell a share of that business to an investor who's interested in coming into this business, who has patient capital, so they're really willing to wait it out the next 2, 3 years? Because I can tell you, with the travel business, hospitality, it's gonna take time, a year, 2, 3 years before it recovers, right? We don't know when, but it will recover. So you need someone who will come in with money that will, they'll be patient enough to wait another a year or 2 years or 3 years for them to see the fruits of their investments. So you need to look at your business and the numbers. But I can say this, if you are not able to maintain your business, you have 2 choices. Either you close it, or you can just halt it, meaning that you keep the vision alive, but then now you find the right people who make sure that the business continues. But that, I think, depends a lot on your financial situation. So sit down with a business advisor or wealth advisor like us at Regal Africa, and we would look at it and advise accordingly based on your particular finances. All right. So I wish you well, Mike, on that. I see more people joining us on Facebook. What I would encourage you to do is please write a comment or put a question, because I see people from around the world, and I know you have very many questions, not necessarily you being in Africa, but in the US, and especially what we are seeing. If you have any questions about wealth creation, wealth vision, having a wealth plan, how to manage your global wealth, please go ahead and just write the question on the comments, and I will be glad to answer that. All right, so another question that I have here. Nyambura asks, what businesses do you recommend that have minimum seed capital for one to do in this new economy? So Nyambura, what I would say is I focus on helping people create wealth and help them actualize their wealth vision. But I always tell people, when you're starting a business, you have to do a business that you know, that you're passionate about, and that you're willing to do what it takes to see it successful. Now, I'm not the expert to tell you how to get rich quick or what is a startup business that you can do. But what I can say is what I have been seeing people doing who are taking advantage of the times that we are right now and seeing that healthcare and hygiene are very critical, then you need to look at those businesses in that particular sector. And also food, agribusiness. So a lot of people are going and saying they're making hand sanitizers, people are doing masks, the usual things. A lot of people are now delivering food. So what we're seeing is the rise of businesses using e-commerce platforms because people don't want to leave their houses. We are seeing people who are, food is essential, healthcare is essential. So even say, for example, people want delivery of their medicine to their houses. People want to be able to find there's home care. You want people don't want to go to the hospital, so in-home home care is going to be something that's going to be really big. So those are the things you want to look at. I would say education is also very important because you're seeing children need to be educated. Even us, I'm doing a lot of trainings online, and what we're hearing is people want information. So I would say education, healthcare, agribusiness, and essential things. But I also say when you're starting a business, you don't want to only do a business for just short term, right? You actually have to see what is the future. And for me, the future is all about technology. So I'm very big on fintech solutions, payment solutions, investment solutions, lending solutions through technology, accounting solutions online, legal solutions online, just basically seeing all these services being using technology to support their customers. So I would say look at that. And when you say minimal seed capital, I'm not sure how much minimal is, because to a billionaire, $1 million is minimal. To some of us, it's a lot less. So I think I would say you just figure out what you're passionate about, what narrow down to the industry, and then you can get advice from a business coach, because I do business coaching, but it depends on you. Everything to do with wealth and business starts with you. No one can tell you this is where you need to go and you just follow blindly. So you actually need someone who understands where you are, what your vision is, and they can help you accordingly. All right, Nyambura, so I wish you well in starting your new business, because again, this is the time you can make a lot of money online if you position yourself well. And remember, it's a global village, so you don't have to be restricted to be in the location that you are. You can offer services everywhere. I know I'm doing that with like the workbook I'm doing, or the trainings that I am doing, or the different things that I'm doing. I'm using technology to support people in Africa and around the world. All right then. So the next question we have here is from Mike. He said, doesn't it therefore make sense investing in property that is in distress or being auctioned? Yes, Mike. So that's what I was saying. When a property is being auctioned, then it's going through the bank. Sometimes you can get really good deals, but there are so many legal issues to overcome that, because most people who have been auctioned don't want to be auctioned. And auction just means foreclosure if you're in the US, right? So there are opportunities there. So look at the opportunities, but also don't get yourself in properties that are going to keep you in the legal system for a very long time, because maybe the person being auctioned will continue to sue the bank and sue you. So you also have to be careful about that. The properties that I've seen people actually take advantage of is someone is distressed, and so they look into their network, or they tell particular realtors or advisors, say, find me someone who has cash and is willing to buy this property at a deal. That's also another way to do it. But I do believe that at this time, distressed properties will come and you can make a good killing if you have the money. And that's why it's always critical to have cash, because if you have liquid cash, you can get opportunities in time of distress, like right now. So be on the lookout and you'll get some good deals there. All right, so then Mike, it says, the crisis definitely brings out the difference between being rich and being wealthy. I agree. I always tell people being rich is being rich. You have money, you're doing a good salary, and you have money, you're spending it. Being wealthy is very different. Being wealthy means you own assets. You're financially free, meaning you don't even have to work. You'll be able to keep having your money, make money for yourself. It's a point whereby you have passive income, right? So the goal for me is always to teach people how to be wealthy and not to be rich, because I can tell you there's so many people who are rich and they have very high value property, and right now they are either going to go get bankrupt or they'll be auctioned because they don't have the resources to pay what it is that they owe. So there are very many people around the world who who have been very rich, but then during times of crisis, because they weren't doing what the wealthy do, which is grow your assets while minimizing your liability, found themselves in a really bad position. So yes, there is a difference. And now this is when you're going to see who's rich and who's wealthy, because the people who will come out on top of this crisis and continue creating wealth, managing wealth, and transferring their wealth for generations to come are those people who are wealthy, not the rich. All right. All right, I see more people joining us on Facebook. I would go ahead and just say, if you have any questions, just go ahead and put them on the comment. I would be glad to answer you. My job here is to just have this discussion around wealth vision, global wealth. What is it that you need to be doing now to grow and manage your wealth? And I will be glad to answer that. I still had more questions that had been asked earlier. So I do see there was a question here from Teresa that says, what is the surest and safest way of wealth creation at this time of COVID? Real estate, which was the surest, seems to be on the go slow. I think I've answered that based on what Mike was asked earlier. So yes, everybody thought real estate is the way to go. And I do believe in real estate. I studied real estate. I always tell people real estate is a good asset class, but it's always about what type of real estate and where is the real estate located. So you're not, it's not a good idea to just buy land in the middle of nowhere. It's not a good idea just to buy property just because you're buying property. You actually have to look and see, what is the value of this property? What is the location? And what is my plan for that? Am I planning to live into that property? Am I looking to rent that property? Am I looking to produce on that property? So real estate was seen as the sure way you will never lose. But like I've told you, it's numbers don't lie. Property prices are going down, right? Or stabilizing depending on the location. So yes, real estate was true and tested, but it's also going through a few hitches here and there. The other way that people are looking to create wealth passively, and again, also it depends on your risk tolerance, is people are putting money in fixed income just because they know that whoever whoever puts money in fixed income is most likely going to get a good return, not a great return, but they're not going to lose money. So again, it depends on your risk tolerance. Right now, if you're in Kenya, fixed income can range all the way from 9% to 18% with some of our fund managers, as long as you invest a minimum of about 1 million Kenya shillings. So, at least you can get double digits depending. So that's a good way to look at if you want something liquid because you think there might be some distressed property, so you still want your cash in hand and you don't want to lock it, you can put it in a money market. But sometimes you want to look and say, is this worth it? I was looking at the US Treasury Bills, and US is really known as, most people look at it, a very safe haven government bonds. But I mean, you'll put your money there for 20 years and you only get, I think it was like 1.58% per annum for 30 years. Again, you can be conservative, but then sometimes it's not the smart thing to do. So what I would say, Teresa, when you're looking at something outside real estate, you actually have to look at your time horizon, you have to look at your risk tolerance, and then now place your money in those things. But at the end of it all, what you want to do is having a diversified portfolio. don't put everything in one basket. Don't put all your money in real estate. Don't put all your money in fixed income. Don't put all your money in equities. Always diversify your portfolio. And I've talked about that before. And I will be having a program called Creating Wealth Program starting in July. It's a 4-week series, really. And there will be a section where we'll be talking about how do you manage your investment portfolio? And we'll be going into details about that. And also how to manage your real estate portfolio. And then the third one is going to be managing your business portfolio and also creating wealth strategies. So it's just going to be more in depth. Right now, I'm just doing high level and, just answering questions, but you can now go in depth, and then now it would be personalized to just you, All right. So, all right, I see more questions coming on Zoom and not so much on Facebook. I want to say thank you for joining us, Kate. Diana, I see Dr. Lucy Mackenzie. Oh yeah, she was on our show last week. Thank you, Dr. Lucy, for joining us. I see Elizabeth Taylor. Thank you for joining. Bonnie, thank you for joining. Noni, thank you for joining. I see Joe and Festus. So please ask questions. I know you joined because you want to understand about wealth creation. You have a wealth vision. If you have anything particular, just go ahead and put it in the comments, and I will be glad to answer that question. Or you can always reach us out at Regal Africa at info@regalafrica.co.ke, and I can answer you at that. But like the reason I started with wealth conversation is so that I can get your questions and I can answer them for you. All right, so we'll continue, and the next question is from Nyambura, who says, you cannot buy a property for less than 75% of its actual value by Kenyan law. Contact a real estate advisor. That is true. And that is specifically, I talked about auction prices. And that has been the problem. That has been, in my opinion, the problem with the Kenyan law, because the prices are overvalued. So of course, evaluation has to be done by a valuer to actually ascertain what the value of the property is. And in this case, it's a bank who you have a lien on the property, they cannot sell for less than 75%. That is correct. The other statistics I was showing are property developers. So somebody, when they were developing their property, they planned to sell it for 20 million. Now they're selling it for less, right? Less, even 50% or 60%. Why? Because they know they cannot get 20 million at this particular time in this particular market. So those are where the deals are. But if you're looking at distressed property, especially bank-owned property, then yes, you might have a handle because of the Kenyan law, which says that the property is will be at 75% actual value. You can't sell for less than that. But if we actually see that the value of the properties continue going down, then yeah, someone will be able to get it for less than what they actually would have done a couple months ago. So thank you, Nyambura, that is correct. Teresa asks, what are green bonds and are they worth investing in, climate change considered? All right, so green bond really look at ethical investing and doing things around climate change. So for example, I don't know if you people are aware, in Kenya, there was, Acorn is a real estate developer, and they actually just did a green bond, which happened in the London Stock Exchange a couple months ago. And really what they're trying to do is they were trying to get this money. So they're borrowing, right? Hence a green bond, so that they could actually invest in property, which is really efficient, that is really looking at energy sufficiency, reduced energy costs. So basically these green bonds are not typical, they go towards investments that are looking at not your normal ones, but things that are going to affect climate. So for anyone who is conscious about the environment, conscious about where their money is going to go, and as time goes by, you'll see more and more people being very cautious about where they're investing, because you don't want to invest in things that are going to ruin the climate or ruin people's lives. Then we'll see more and more green bonds happening. So you'll see that in property, you'll see that in businesses. So you'll see that in companies that are really looking at the benefit of the environment, and so that should be it. So be on the lookout. We'll see more and more of that happening around the world. And I do believe in impact investing and investing in good companies that are doing well for the community. So that is one of the ways to do that. All right, Teresa, thank you for that question. All right, I also see Mike asking, many people have bought property. Wow, Mike, you're all about property. You're truly Kenyan, or I'm assuming you're Kenyan. Many people have bought property off plan that was never delivered, okay, or has really delayed. With the financial stress that developers are facing, coupled with declining property prices, many people will end up losing their life saving or end up paying loans for property that they never got. The justice system does not help. One therefore has to be very careful who they buy property. Okay, so I guess this was more of a comment, and it is true, Mike. So if you look at especially the last decade, there was a lot of people buying off plan, and the reason this was happening is because when you buy off plan, basically the pricing was less because you're taking a risk, right? And a lot of developers, because funding or getting real estate financing is also not very easy. I'm in that space where I help people get financing. And if you're actually borrowing, for example, through the Kenyan banks, it's quite expensive, it's double digits. So it erodes your return. So we saw a lot of people going in as developers and doing pre-sales. One, because property development is capital intensive, so they used the deposit that potential buyers brought in to now start doing those developments. And the goal was, once they start getting this money, by the time they finish the development, then now they could sell the units and they'll make their money. Now, again, times have changed. So rightfully put is that people put in their deposits, or they had payment plans, and now the developers have not done what they say they're doing, and now the development has stalled. So what are you going to do? Again, that's why it's very important. Oh my God, whenever you're doing any investment, even if it's really, it doesn't matter what it is, look at the contract that you're signing. Understand what the fine print is saying, because all these people who bought in pre-sales, basically they knew that, you know, things can happen, and that's unfortunate. So for me, when I talk to people about investing in real estate, I say go and find developers who have a track record, because then that shows they started a project and they completed it. Or one of the things I'm encouraging people is to come together, especially the diaspora. And I see a couple of people who are on Facebook and also on Zoom who are from the diaspora. Just get organized as family, as friends, as organization, come together and then get a professionals to manage that money and that development. Then you will see less of this happening. But it's very unfortunate because people have lost their life savings. The justice system might not be helping them now, but it will help them in the future, because these things will have to be resolved, and whoever took this money will have to deliver, or something else will have to be done. So I'm hoping that that gets resolved. But I will say, before you get into any investment, make sure you do your due diligence. And if you're not in the country or you don't understand, because not all of us are professionals, find a professional who would help you. And that's why there are wealth advisors, that's why there are legal advisors, that's why there are realtors, that's why there are tax advisors. There are people who understand this system and they can be able to help you. Yes, you will pay them, but I can tell you, paying them is a lot is cheaper or better than actually lose all your money because you went into something that you did not understand the repercussions. All right, so that is something that I see happening a lot. All right, so I see another question here from Nyambura, who says, what is your opinion on banking as a solution to the new economy? All right. Wow, table banking is something that I came across a couple of years ago. I was not familiar with it, but I finally did. I think table banking is good, but it's not a way to create wealth. I'm sorry. It's not a way to create wealth. It's the same thing as buying plots. Plots will never make you, those quarter, they'll never make you wealthy. That's my opinion. It's the same way people save with circles. Those will never make you wealthy. So if you want to be wealthy, you need to get away from that micro mentality of plots, circles, table banking. That will never make you wealthy. The reason table banking started was because people could not borrow from the bank, right? And so the reason someone will go in, and I know I'm in a chama that you're paying like 5% a month. Why would you pay 5% a month, which is equivalent to 60% a year, give or take, right? And yet you can go to the bank and pay 13% per annum. It doesn't make sense. So the only reason you're going to do table banking is because you have no way of actually borrowing from the bank. But I think I will turn it around. Table banking is not the solution, but the people who will lend are the people who make a lot of money. I've been talking to a lot of people. The way to make money in the future is actually business funding, not consumption, but business funding. People who will actually fund SMEs, formal SMEs, if I may put it, because I'm not a believer in the informal economy. Those are the people who will make money. So you have to create wealth because there's a lot of money to be made in that space of funding, because a lot of people, unfortunately, are financially, they don't make good financial decisions. And I'm hoping none of you guys are doing that, but they don't look at, they're not saving, they're borrowing without understanding what the interest rate is and how it affects them in the long run. So you want to be careful about that. So in my opinion, table banking was a solution just because people couldn't go into the bank, but it's not the future and it's not a way to create wealth. All right, I see it's 7, so I have a few questions, and then we will end soon. But if you have any questions, just go ahead and write them down. We can extend it just a little bit, but if not, you can always reach us out, like I said, on our email at info@regalafrica.co.ke, or if you're on Facebook, just send us a message and we'll be glad to help. So the last question I see here is okay. Hi, if I have, let's say, 1 million, which I have made from my business, can I invest in owning a home, or I reinvest the whole amount back in my business? What would you advise? Okay, so if you have money, in this case, 1 million shillings, and should you invest in owning a home, or should you invest the whole amount back into your business? All right, I always say it depends, right? It depends because in this case, because you've made money through your business, the question is, what stage is your business, right? So if your business is in early stages, I believe that especially the first 3 years, the first 5 years, you need to be reinvesting into your business, right? So whatever money you make, you want to reinvest back into your business, because that's the only way it can grow. But I also believe that you should not put all your eggs in one basket. You cannot put all your money into your business, because when business is not good, guess what? You get into problems. So what I would look at it is, I would say, okay, how much money am I making out of this business? Let's say that profit, you did a deal, the profit was 1 million shillings. Take some of that money, put it into another investment, right? And then some of that money goes back into your business. That is the first advice I'd make. The second question was, can I invest in owning a home, or invest the whole amount back into my, okay. So can I invest in owning a home? Again, it depends on what your vision is. If you want to own a home, and when you buy the wealth book, those will be one of the questions that it's going to ask you. What is your vision? Do you want to buy a house and everything? Then you have to ask yourself, how much money will it cost for me to own this home? Am I buying an apartment? Am I buying land and then I develop that land? What am I doing? Because then that 1 million will be, can I put that as a deposit into some of these apartments, houses, but I can tell you, if you're in Kenya, for example, there are houses, you know, Kiambu Road or different places on the outskirts or satellite places whereby you're seeing them going for less than 5 million. So with $1 million shillings would be a deposit into a house like that. Again, you don't want to put all your money there and then you have no extra money. So I think for me, my advice on this particular situation of you have money, do you put it back into your business, or do you own a home, or do you invest? I would say it depends on your particular situation, but don't put all your money back into your business and don't put all your money into one asset. So you want to just make a decision around that. And if you need any help, and like I said, I do wealth coaching, business coaching. We can sit down, do the numbers, and then advise you accordingly. All right, so I see here Stella asked great insights. Thank you, and thank you, Stella. I appreciate you for joining in, and I thank all of you for joining in and asking those questions, because I keep telling people that every time you ask a question, it benefits you and it also benefits the others, because a lot of people have questions about creating, managing, and growing their wealth. And from my experience, they didn't have a platform, because most people in finance were always selling them a product as opposed to offering them advice. And so when COVID happened, like I said, I decided this is a great platform for me to just answer any questions, even if it's on a high level. And then if you really need expert advice and we sit down, then we can help you with that. So with that, I want to say thank you again for joining Wealth Conversations with Gaitha. We are on every Wednesday at 6 p.m. East African time. If you're in the States, it's 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we are here, or I'm here, to answer your questions and just give you insights of what direction you want to take so that you can make the best decision for yourself and for your family, because the goal is about creating wealth for 4 generations down the line. And if you start making the right decisions today, then you'll thank yourself. Your future self will thank you. So especially if you're young, you want to start making those steps right now. Get a wealth plan. The wealth book, we are actually selling it for 1,000 shillings. If you're in the States, it's only $10. It's an ebook. You can either pay with M-Pesa or PayPal. It's all online. We went digital because of COVID, so we can be able to help you with that. But I always tell people, you also want a wealth advisor who sit down, because the situation, what will work for you won't work for somebody else. And if you need that, then we would be able to offer that service for you. Right now, an offer that we are offering is, if you actually purchase the e-workbook, we will be able to give you a bonus. There's a training that we did called Faith, Family, and Financial Prosperity. And it's a 2-hour program that really went in depth about what the Bible says about creating wealth, because creating wealth is a good thing. I always tell people, there's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong with making wealth. So if you actually purchase the wealth book, e-workbook, then you actually get access to the video, which was only accessible to people who actually came for the training. So that's something that I would encourage all of you to do. And we'll meet next week at 6 p.m. And I will be able to tell you also more about other programs that we are going to be coming up with. And like I said, the goal here is to make you wealthy, not rich, wealthy. There is a difference, but it starts with you and what your plan is. So think abundance. So when you go home today, you start asking yourself, what do I want out of this, right? Do I want a mansion? Do I want an apartment? Like, what is it? And don't be limited by what your parents did. Don't be limited by what your community told you is what you need to do. You actually have to ask yourself and say, what kind of lifestyle, what do I want? Because there's endless opportunities, there's abundance in the world. Even in this time of COVID, this is when you should be planning and strategizing, because if you put it down, you have a vision, you put the steps, you take action, you will achieve it. So thank you again for joining Wealth Conversations with Gaitha, and I will see you next week, every Wednesday. Thank you, and God bless. Have a good day. Bye-bye.